So without teaching the group how to suck eggs, I think it's fairly well established that knowing your employees well is a benefit to an organisation, either through its strategy or because your employees are customers, and companies have long understood the benefits of knowing their customers better. I think for me it's not about doing the employee research as much as it is doing the employee research well, and that's something that you don't see as often as you possibly should. I think I saw a survey that said that around 4 in 5, or maybe it was more than 4 in 5 companies don't do employee research more than once a year. So they do an annual engagement survey and nothing else. And that says two very bad things to employees. It says that we only care about your opinion once a year, and then after that you can go and do what you will, and we won't pay any attention to you. And to leadership, it says that this is the only time you're going to get any insight on what your employees are thinking. And that very important thing that happened that hit your organisation last month, well, we can't really tell you anything about the effects of that internally in the organisation because we didn't run the survey at that particular time. And so I think companies have tried various ways to get around that. They've been doing pulse surveys, they've been doing very small culture amp style smiley face surveys, how are you feeling today? But when employee research is done very well, it allows multiple touch points into the employee experience, but in a timely fashion and in a one that actually really crafts recommendations and actions for organisations to be able to take centrally. So the approach to employee insight that we take at HSBC has predated me. I've been at HSBC for just over 2 years, but I've certainly been involved over those 2 years in shaping and developing the way that we approach employee research here. The plan has always been to have two sources of data, one quantitative and one qualitative, two big pots of data that we can use in any way we want. The quant data source is a survey called Snapshot. It's sent to a sample of the organisation on a quarterly basis, or has been until this year, and I'll go into some of the changes we're making to Snapshot in a moment. But quarterly sample-based survey, and then once a year a census-based survey that looks at the most important issues that are hitting the bank at any one time. We've taken an editorial approach to the question set for that survey. So whereas there are some things that don't change, there are some things that are tracked over time, there are also other elements that can go in, go out. We want to test different concepts. Maybe one quarter we want to have a look at innovation, another quarter we want to have a look at collaboration, working culture, work-life balance. We can import any questions and any additional research we like. And then we can do additional depth research in between times into particular areas or particular populations where we've seen negativity, positivity, or even just outliers from the norm. The qualitative data source has largely come in unstructured and structured ways. So in structured qualitative insight comes from the survey. So Snapshot also has the ability to do open text response, so we can analyse that through algorithmic or text analysis and have a look at the what and maybe the why of some of the scores that we see in Snapshot. But more importantly for us on the qualitative side is our unstructured qualitative feedback. We have a program in HSBC called Exchange, which is in part a communications tool, but also almost an engagement program in and of itself. So Exchange is a non-agenda, so an agenda-less, non-manager-led discussion forum. So an employee can go into an Exchange meeting once a quarter, we recommend they happen once a quarter, and talk about whatever is on their mind. And then whoever has facilitated the meeting goes onto a system afterwards and uploads some notes about what was discussed. And it's that simple. And what that does is provide a massive pool of data that is unstructured and is on whatever the employees want to tell us about, but that we can analyse as a very rich seam of data about anything and everything under the sun within HSBC. So I think it's fair to say that employee research hasn't always had the same credibility or cachet that maybe market research has had within organisations. That's partially because, as I've said before, it tends to be quite infrequent, it tends to be quite time-bound, but also it's always been one of those things that's pushed to the back of the agenda on the executive committee meeting, somewhere in between any other business and the communications update. And it's even worse here at HSBC because it's the communications people that are fronting all of the employee insight that we do. And so what we've really had to focus on to get that impact with the business is, one, really drive home the credibility of the data that we're producing, but also make sure that we're really boiling down the data into very actionable insight. We don't just present a summary of findings. What we present is some extrapolations, some inference about what that's telling us and what we can actually do as an organisation to counter some scores where we see them, where we wouldn't want them to be. So that's got us to the stage where the data is trusted and is mandatory for all board meetings, either the Snapshot report or anything from Exchange meetings. And we've done that by focusing on the stuff that you guys will all know very well in terms of market research, whether it's margin of error, whether it's statistical validity. It's all about the credibility of the data first and foremost. And in terms of the impact that that's then had with the business and how people have taken the recommendations or taken the data and run with it, we've seen some very big changes and we've seen some very small changes. So certainly with Exchange, the whole concept of Exchange meetings is you're going into a room and talking about what's important to you, one, but you're also maybe discussing it with people that could create a solution for you. So it's about taking local action for local issues with Exchange. So we've seen lots and lots of local change, and there's thousands of anecdotes in the organisation about how Exchange has made people's lives better. But we've also seen some very big changes. So HSBC changed its entire performance management framework based on insight that we were showing them from employee views, either from Exchange or through some of the data from Snapshot too. And then we've also used it to provide a lot of key driver analysis for change programs. So what you will generally tend to see in HSBC is when something is changing, it is largely in reference to or in reaction to a perceived negativity in the business, and that's largely because of the data that we're presenting to them from the employee insight team. So it has some effect, but that's largely because it is viewed as a credible source of data on the employees, the employee sentiment, the employee perception. So I guess there's always a need to innovate and a need to make things new. So there are three things that we're doing this year that should make employee insight even better here at HSBC. One, we're moving to monthly data rather than quarterly. Again, as I said at the top of the interview, anything that you can get that gives you more touch points into the employee experience is better. So getting a monthly organisation-wide view of the employee experience rather than quarterly would be positive. We're communicating to employees more widely around the results, and we're looking at publishing the data in an open source way, so anyone in the organisation can pick up the information we're providing and use it for their own business case for whatever change they want to do. Someone somewhere is sitting at HSBC at the moment and not having the data they need to build a business case for whatever they want to change that will have a positive effect on the organisation, so we're seeking to try and change that. And then thirdly, we're looking at new ways to present the data, whether that's in online dashboards and interactive formats, whether it's about pulling multiple data sources together to provide a much clearer understanding to managers for what their employees are saying to them.